Hey guys, how you going? Welcome to the garage session here up at our clubhouse at Heatherbrae. So just a few of us. We thought we'd go for the big garage this morning. So we've got bikes here like Kendall's, the Granny Glide, and then we've got all through the shovels and picks and...
The shovel's not here.
I don't even know what that is. It's not a shovel apparently. Scrap that, that's not a shovel, it's a red one. And then, we've got others. But guys, welcome. Really appreciate you being with us. In 2 weeks' time, Long Riders New South Wales chapters are going to be on the road. We're going to be up north, and so we're actually going to do our next garage session while we're on the road. So keep a watch for that in 2 weeks' time. That'll be really cool fun. But this morning, we're here with good mate and brother Carl. Carl, how you going, buddy?
Good.
Hey, so you're kind of new to Long Riders and recently just got your supporters patch and hanging out with us, which has been really cool. This is your bike here. Tell us a bit about your ride.
I guess we all have tastes in things, and it was my first Harley. I was looking for a Sportster Harley because I was coming into the Harley sort of scene, and I was looking online, and I wanted something that looked tough because I felt the stock looked pretty,
Yep.
And I guess this represents my taste in bikes.
It's pretty mean looking, like you look good on it. It sounds unbelievable. It's got cams or something that does it.
Yeah. When I saw it was in Manlyvale. Some guy was selling it down there, and I remember I looked at a couple of other irons.
Yep.
And this was in the street, and as I got out of the car, I looked at it, I thought, that's it.
Yeah,
And
cool.
I jumped on it, I took around the block, and
Yep. What do you like most about this from other bikes that you've owned? This being your first Harley, it's kind of got that mean sort of thing. You got the tank up high. You're really sort of wrapping yourself around the bike when you ride. It looks awesome. It really suits your riding style too. You can throw it around nice and light. What do you like most about this bike?
I like its look, and it's quite comfortable for my height.
Yep. Is that because you're so tall?
I'm really tall, I'm 5 foot. I like the look. The look was the thing that grabbed me. I love the sound of it.
Yep.
And when I ride it, it's quite smooth, and it's got a bit of power as well.
Yeah.
When I've ridden with you guys, it keeps with the pack.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, you keep up really well. It's awesome, man. It's awesome. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Carl. What do you do for a living? Tell us a little bit about your family, kids, that sort of thing.
I'm a postie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you deliver mail on this one?
I'd be ripping up people's lawns. I think it'd be a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I'm a postie. I have 3 children.
Yep.
All girls.
Yep.
2 stepchildren. A stepson and a stepdaughter.
Wow.
I have,
Big family, man.
Yeah, and I have 3 grandkids.
Awesome.
Yeah, and brothers and sisters. And,
Yeah.
But my all my kids.
Yeah. And originally, where are you from? Like, I know you're living in Newcastle now, and you're hanging out with us, and you got family down here as well. And I know you got family up north. But originally, where is your people from?
A place called Onslow in Western Australia.
Yep.
It's in the Pilbara region.
Okay.
My people are Yinjibarndi, and it's 4 hours inland from Karratha.
Yep.
You go out through Panawanika, and then you go out into more of the desert, and there's a place called Millstream,
Yep.
which is now a national park, and that's where my people come from.
Awesome. Do you get back there very often, or?
I was when I was in a job before this.
Yep.
I was a firefighter, and I had that time of days on, days off where I could go home a lot more.
Yep.
But I probably get home once every couple of years now.
Okay. And you still have a lot of family ties there? Do you find when you go home it's just like as if you never left? You kind of,
Yeah, exactly. They always ask if I'm ever going to come home to live.
Yep.
I get bored. So I love going home. It's a good break.
Yeah.
It's totally spiritual for me.
Yeah, cool.
And, it's a good connection.
Yep. And tell us a little bit, Carl. I know you have a faith, and you're really good at sharing what you believe with people when you meet them, and are very open about your faith, which is great. Can you tell me a little bit about, was there a moment in your life where you had such a God encounter that it really changed the course of your life. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
There was an initial God encounter in the year 2000. I was with the Australian Army, and my drinking was out of control for the last few years. I was quite a heavy drinker and getting into trouble. I was waking up, I'd drink in Newcastle, wake up in Sydney, so things like that. And it was quite aggressive. And it came to the crunch about then. I came home and my partner at the time had gone, and I was to drink for another 2 months, and it was a really, I look back at it, it was a very painful period. I woke up in my house and I dropped on my knees. I've never been on my knees before.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything to God or anything, but I just sort of looked up and I said, I can't do this anymore. I remember that. And that was to be my introduction to God on my own in my house, and I was 2 months behind the rent. I'd assaulted an officer at work. It wasn't a heavy assault. Any assault's bad, but I had threatened him, and I can't remember being at work. I was on a huge drinking bender, and I can't remember probably a week.
Yep.
And I'd been into work, and all of this had happened. And I woke up on the Sunday in my bedroom crying, and I said, I can't do this anymore. You know what I mean? And I was to end up in an AA meeting that day.
Yep.
And it went from there, and they would talk about a higher power.
Yep.
It's like, I just, I didn't know whether I was going to stop drinking or not, but I didn't want that.
Yeah.
My only spirits was Jim Beam,
Yeah. Was there a sense when you found yourself in that place? Was there a sense that what I'm doing is not working? Maybe there is something bigger or greater that can be involved in. Was there what was it that sort of was stirring in you?
Well, firstly, I had to have that breakdown that I wasn't in control.
Yep.
My partner had left after 4 years; she'd gone, and my kids were 8 and 6. My 2 daughters.
Yep.
I was in trouble with the army, and so it was all about me at the stage, and it was just complete.
So you were the focus. You were at the centre of what was happening. You were master and commander.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working.
No.
Yeah.
And I was falling apart before that.
Yeah.
There was a sense of loneliness, and I was having mental problems and paranoia and anger, and you know what I mean. And I just felt cut off from everybody.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get that back, the good days of drinking, and they weren't coming.
Yeah.
And so it was the most alone I'd ever been.
Yep.
And it was probably a lead up to that. And probably I was in a relationship, but I felt alone there.
Yep.
I was cutting off from my mates and drinking more. And I think I had to be in the alone position that I was that day, so that something could come in, I guess.
Yeah. So you're on your knees, you're basically crying out to, well, you're not sure who, but just something out there. You're led into an AA meeting where they're talking about this higher power. You're thinking, whoa, hang on a minute, I don't know if that's for me. So where do we go to from there? What was the next thing where, tell us what happened?
It was a desperate feeling. I seen people in there that were getting their lives together, and I saw that there was a way out, and it wasn't just giving up drinking.
Yep.
It was a new way of life in a way that I had to believe in something else. And now I'd believed in something big, as a spiritual sense I had.
Yep.
But I didn't want to be a Christian. That's my first initial thought.
Yep.
They're talking about God in there, and it's like, I didn't like the Jesus word at all.
Yep.
And I think constantly going to AA was me because I was in a state of desperation to be there. It was the last card in the pack for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to parties anymore, so I was going to an AA meeting.
Yeah.
And there's people there, and I was angry, and I was sad, and I was crying one minute.
Yeah.
And the higher power thing kept coming. But as I got more sober over the time, over the months and the years, I was starting to see things happen to me that were totally weren't my doing. Where I started thinking, wow, I was pulled out of that one. And then I was going further in the moments that I was pulled out of trouble, or something would happen, money would turn up, that I was starting to think there's
someone else.
The higher power.
Kind of someone else involved in your journey.
And it wasn't a person.
Yeah. Did you find that, I know in a lot of Aboriginal culture, and there's that, stories throughout generations, and people who don't always understand a lot about Aboriginal culture, there's actually a lot of God mixed in, or even at the centre of a lot of those stories. Did that when you were in this place and there was a real stirring in you, did you find that there was maybe some memories from childhood, or was there something that you thought, oh, there's a bit of a spiritual connection been in the past, do you think?
Yeah, well, I was in homes first. I was taken away from mum when I
Yep.
was 6 months old. And I was in foster homes.
Yep.
And I carried it around a bit. I had trouble with my Aboriginality. My sister came to me when I was 15, tried to catch up with me.
Yep.
And then I joined the army at 17, and I was to stop drinking at 30.
Yep.
But I went home at 25 years old, and I met my mother on her deathbed.
Wow.
And so I was finally able to meet her.
Yep.
And when I give up the piss, I was 8 months sober when I went home.
Yep.
And I sat under a tree I was born under.
Yep.
That's where the higher power really, the God thing, because here I was under a tree in a community, in the place my mum gave birth to me in 1969.
Yeah.
And the year was 2000, I'm sitting there and I'm crying.
Yeah.
I could see it all.
So a real connection with the land and with nature and creation, really.
My family.
Yep.
And then it wasn't until I was a Christian, I was 9 years sober.
Yep.
I had another breakdown. I think my life was going really too well, and I started,
Yep.
pushing God out of the driver's seat, so to
Sure.
speak, and I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the passenger seat for a while,
Yep.
and I was a fireman at that stage,
Yep.
and that's where I was to become a Christian.
Yep.
I'd seen a lot of tragedies and terrible things as a firefighter,
Sure.
in the way of death and injuries and people at their... I was in King's Cross for 9 years,
Yep.
and there's a lot of action there.
Yep.
And it all caught up on me again, and I ended up in hospital with a major panic attack. There was a Christian bloke in my fire station we called Spook, and we would talk about God out the back of the station with a cuppa, and we'd bring up the Jesus word, and and then I had this, it was like an anxiety attack, and I ended up in hospital
Yep.
after a couple of big fires I went to. And I come out of the hospital, he came up to me, he says, "You want to come to church?" And I think he was putting my life, and it was like, yeah, all right. And I ended up at the church, and I seen people just, and it just went on another spin, and it was like, it was another point of desperation.
Yep.
Yeah, I believed in God, but now I was going to another level.
Yep.
I'd got to top things, I was sober 9 years, I was a fireman, my money was in order.
Yep.
Kids' relationships were better. Now I'm breaking down again.
So in that process, were you moving from an acknowledgement of God to maybe coming into more of an understanding and being, coming into a true relationship?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I wasn't going to listen to some bloke talking out of a book.
Yep.
That was me, and I think God knows me, and He knows us all.
Sure.
Our personality and character.
Yep.
Some bloke up there talking out of the Bible was like, whatever. But I ended up in this church. I was ready.
Yep.
And it was the music. I like the churches with music.
Yep.
Because some people don't, some Christians do, some don't. But I think God's made different churches for a reason.
Sure.
Music was the thing for me. It went for half an hour, and it just sort of settled me in. And I'm sitting in there, and he started talking from the book, and I could hear what he was saying.
Yeah.
And then I was to go to a men's group on a hill in La Perouse in Sydney.
Yep.
Another very powerful Aboriginal
Yep.
spot for the people down there, with these 10 Christian men
Yep.
who were to pray over to me, and I was to meet Jesus Christ.
Awesome.
So that was the most amazing thing, and it wasn't someone reading out of a book. I had an experience that I can't quite explain, but
But you knew it was real, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I was
Like it was, like you said, just a minute ago you said when you decided that you would go to church, you had that sense of, I'm not sure if I want to go, but when you were there, you had that sense of, I'm ready, And I think, so obviously God was working, throughout your life, He's been working.
Oh, He's always been there.
And pulling you close. But then it's like you got to a point in your life where you said, you know what, I'm now ready to be close.
Yeah.
And so then this encounter, with Jesus at La Perouse, so all of a sudden it's gone from acknowledgement, a bit of an understanding, now I'm having this encounter, now it's real.
Yeah.
How has that affected you since then to now?
Oh.
How different is your life?
Wow, when I met Christ, it was a huge spiritual experience. It's like being on the biggest trip I'd ever, it was the biggest, they had to carry me in the car.
Yep.
And I was constantly laughing, I couldn't stop laughing. And it was the most amazing peace and happiness that I ever felt. You know, I
Yeah.
was thinking, wow, how long's this been going on? And I used to wake up the next day clear.
Yeah.
I was really clear. And then I chased that after. Well, I've been a Christian 11 years now.
Yep.
That happened about 11 years ago. And it's changed my whole life, because when he says you're saved through faith and not works, that suits me, because
Yeah.
I'm not one to work for it.
Yep.
If anything, I stuff up all the time.
Yeah.
It's just my faith that saved me. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, I've just gotten less at stuffing up.
Yep.
If anything, I don't want to stuff up.
It's powerful, man. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, through this week, I was just, I've had a really busy week myself, and I was reminded of a scripture in Psalms, and it says, it's from Psalm 107, and it says, "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, his love endures forever." And then it goes on to say, "Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story." And I immediately thought of you, Carl, because I knew some of your story. We're all on this journey where our story is unfolding each and every day. And it started me thinking about, what does it mean to be redeemed? You know, to be redeemed is that somebody regains or gains possession of something, you know, purchased on their behalf. It's to make atonement for sin. It's to save someone from sin. And so when I read this psalm and I thought, let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story, I'm thinking, man, you came to mind straight away, because I thought, Carl, you get that. You understand what it is to have your life redeemed, purchased by the blood of Jesus, you know, in such a way that you've had this God encounter, you know, that God, the Father, has provided a way for us all through Jesus to be redeemed. You know, he's purchased us back, hasn't he? You know, for relationship. And it just reminds me that when we speak of redemption and being redeemed, you know, it's twofold. Your story this morning is good because, one, for your own self, it's reminding you of the price that Jesus paid. In other words, it's reminding you of the value you are to God the Father as one of his sons. You know, your family line is valuable to God. The second thing is, I'm sure that there's people watching this online this morning that are sitting there going, hey man, I've got a story similar to that. And you know, so there's an encouragement there that God has redeemed you this morning. That you are a redeemed son and a redeemed daughter of God. That you have an ability, an opportunity, as Carl did, to go from a place of knowledge through understanding to experience the love and the grace and the mercy of an incredible Heavenly Father. What's one thing, Carl, that you would love to encourage people with this morning? If you could leave one thing, a deposit from this morning. I know you've got a massive story, and like I said, we can only, you know, touch on a piece of it this morning, which is okay. But if there was one thing that you would love to leave with people this morning to encourage them, what would that be?
Look, I was taken away. I was in foster homes. I've experienced a lot of things in life that may have made, I could have turned out to be an angry man. I could have continued drinking. I could have ended up in jail, or even,
Yep.
I could have had so much anger towards whatever happened to me in my life,
Yep.
and blamed everyone and blamed the government or blamed white people or whatever.
Yep.
But it didn't turn out that way. When I came to God, well, God came to me, I was able to look back and see he was there the whole time, and that he'd had his hand in it since I was born. That when it says in the Bible that he knew us before we was born,
Yep.
he knew the time that I was going to come to him. That the past is the past, and I think people hold on to resentment and anger of things that have been done to them or happened to them. And the biggest thing, I think, is whatever's happened, happened.
Yep.
That God's always been there. And even in the hardest times, he was there all the time.
Yep.
I think the biggest thing is there's a future. My life's eternal.
Yep.
That's the big thing. But he's a loving father, and that he has never abandoned me, and he didn't just rock up that night at La Perouse. He was there the day I was born.
Yeah.
And stood by me the whole time.
Yeah, that's powerful, man.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah,
is
so as you
my
look back
faith,
now,
yeah.
do you see highlights and moments throughout your life where God was there?
Oh, totally,
Where
man.
maybe you didn't know it at the time,
Yeah.
but you can see it, it's very evident
It's
now.
only when I found him that
Yeah.
I saw he was there. If I didn't find him,
It's powerful. Yeah.
And everything that's ever happened to me, it's like when you give thanksgiving, not only for the good times,
Yeah.
I thank Him for all the hard times.
Yeah.
I really do, even in my life today.
Yep.
So every time something is hitting the fan,
Yeah.
yeah, thanks God.
Well, it's
And there's
different,
something
isn't it?
powerful in that,
Because,
yeah.
like, we all know our story, but to know our story in the power and the presence of God, to look at our life story with eyes that say, well, I'm redeemed, I've been purchased back, you know, I was designed, I was created. There's a DNA in each one of us that needs to be connected to God, that's, you know, designed to be connected to God. I think, as we look back over our life story, exactly what you said, you see moments where, you know, God was there.
He was there, man.
And He wasn't off in the distance, He was right there with me. Right there with me. Hey, I want to thank you, Carl, for sharing the story this morning, man. It's really cool. I'm sure that people watching online have been really blessed this morning. So, folks, this is another in our series, Garage Sessions, and we're going to keep bringing these to you as we uncover more and more stories of God's transformation. And so I want you to know that have a great week, be blessed, be kind to one another, look for opportunities to share your story with those around you. Don't shy away from the fact that you have been called, that there's a purpose for your life, that you've been redeemed. And if you're watching this morning thinking, man, I don't know what this is about, and I'm not sure where I'm at, do what Carl did. Find yourself on your knees, just say, you know what? If you're there, God, show yourself. Because in essence, that's kind of what he did. So have a blessed week. Thanks for watching. Have a great one.